First contact. The Zephix exploration vessel Luminous Whisper slipped into high orbit around the blue-green world. Its long-range scans had labeled TRC-1138. Science officer Xyloth Crux studied the preliminary data with all four of his eyes, each nictitating membrane flicking with disdain. What a peculiar little planet, he mused aloud, his sensory cilia waving. Scans show a dominant species clustered in primitive structures, utilizing basic materials like concrete and steel. Their transportation mechanisms rely on fossil fuels. How quaint. His assistant, a young Zephix named Ivari, looked up from her holoscreen. It appears they have achieved spaceflight, sir, though their crafts are quite rudimentary. Chemical propulsion, with no sign of zero-point drive or quantum flux capabilities. Xyloth snorted, his nostril slits flaring. Hardly an achievement. We mastered intergalactic travel eons ago. What are these creatures called again? Ivari consulted her translator module. The dominant species refers to themselves as humans. They have a limited presence on their solitary natural satellite, but no colonies beyond. Unsurprising, Xyloth said, crossing his upper arms. Well, log this system as low priority for contact. We have far more pressing matters than coddling primitives. Prepare a report for the homeworld, and set course for the Sigma Orionis cluster. Ivari nodded and began processing the data. The Luminous Whisper scanned Earth one final time, recording the unremarkable transmissions and fledgling satellite networks of the human race. In a shimmering distortion of space-time, the Zephix ship accelerated away, dismissing the little blue planet and its occupants as beneath notice. They would soon learn how wrong they were. The human delegation, Ambassador Eliza Koski, straightened her ceremonial jacket, the fabric shimmering under the bright lights of the Great Hall. Around her, the multi-species crowd buzzed with conversation in dozens of languages, their words translated by the gleaming pins on every delegate's lapel. She glanced at her team. Shen Liu, the brilliant engineer, Adi Patel, the quick-witted diplomat, Marcus Johnson, the adaptable jack of all trades. All of them looked tense but determined. This was a momentous occasion for Earth. After decades of advancement and careful negotiation, humanity was finally being inducted into the Galactic Union. Eliza approached the dais where the Union's High Council awaited. The Zephix representative, an older male with shrewd eyes, regarded her with barely concealed condescension. Ambassador Koski, he said, his voice filtered through the translator. Welcome to the Galactic Union. I am Counselor Xyloth Crux. It is our custom to provide new members with a tour of our facilities to showcase the marvels we have achieved. If you'll follow me. Eliza nodded graciously, though she sensed the arrogance in his tone. She and her team fell into step behind Xyloth as he led them through the gleaming corridors of the space station. At every turn, the Zephix counselor pointed out the advanced technology integrated into the station's very bones. Quantum computers, zero-point power generators, nanomaterial fabricators. He spoke of them with the pride of a parent regaling an ignorant child. As you can see, Xyloth said, gesturing to a holographic schematic, our engineering is centuries beyond your own. But fear not. In time, your species may learn to harness such wonders. Under our guidance, of course. Shen Lu bristled at the condescension, but Eliza laid a calming hand on his arm. They were here to forge connections, not argue over petty slights. Still, as the tour went on, showcasing ever more advanced Zephix technology, Eliza couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens were underestimating humanity. They saw only the surface, the primitives they had observed decades ago. They didn't see the ingenuity, the determination, the sheer human stubbornness that had propelled her species to the stars. But they would. Soon enough, they would understand what humanity was truly capable of. The engineering challenge. The tour ended in the station's massive central power core, a cavernous chamber thrumming with barely contained energies. Xyloth was midway through a proud spiel about the core's advanced containment fields when an alarm began to blare. crimson light pulsed as a computerized voice announced, "Warning. Containment breach in progress. 0-point reactor destabilizing. Immediate evacuation recommended." The delegates erupted into panicked chatter, but Xyloth raised his voice above the din. "Remain calm. Our safety systems will handle this momentary glitch." He tapped furiously at a control panel, his eyes widening as the readouts cascaded with errors. "I don't understand," he muttered. "The quantum stabilizers should be compensating. The backups are failing. How can this be?" As the station shuddered ominously, Eliza grabbed Shen's arm. "Can you fix this?" The engineer was already rolling up his sleeves. "I can try, but I'll need access to the control systems." Eliza turned to Xyloth, who was desperately trying to isolate the breach. "Counselor, I understand you have your doubts about human technology. But right now, one of our best engineers is offering to help. Will you let him try?" Xyloth hesitated for a long moment, his pride warring with the urgency of the situation. Finally, he stepped back from the panel. "Do what you can," he said grudgingly. Shen dove into the fray, his fingers flying over the alien controls. He muttered to himself as he worked, analyzing the problem with the speed of a quantum computer. "The primary containment field is failing," he said. "But if I can reroute power from the auxiliary systems and establish a resonance wave pattern." He trailed off, lost in concentration. Minutes ticked by as the station groaned and buckled, the temperature rising with each passing breath. Just as Eliza was about to give the order to evacuate, Shen let out a triumphant shout. "Got it." With a final flurry of commands, he stepped back from the panel. The alarms cut off abruptly, replaced by a steadily thrumming hum of the reactor returning to stable operation. On the displays, the containment field glowed a reassuring green. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Xyloth stared at Shen, his expression unreadable. Eliza held her breath, waiting for the counselor's reaction. "How did you do that?" Xyloth finally asked. "Our best engineers were stymied, yet you, a human, managed to avert catastrophe." Shen shrugged modestly. "I applied principles from quantum field theory and 0-point energy manipulation. We may not have your exact technology yet, but our understanding of the underlying science is solid. Plus, a little creative problem-solving goes a long way." Xyloth blinked slowly, as if seeing humanity in a new light. "Indeed," he murmured. "It appears we have underestimated your species. You have my gratitude, Engineer Liu, and my respect." Grudging respect. In the aftermath of the near disaster, the atmosphere on the station changed. The aliens, especially the Zephyx, looked at the human delegates with new eyes, their previous dismissiveness replaced by grudging respect. Xyloth, in particular, made a point to seek out Eliza and her team. "Ambassador," he said, his sensory cilia waving in a gesture of apology, "I must admit, I had my doubts about your species. We Zephyx pride ourselves on our advanced technology, and when we first encountered your world, we saw only primitives." Eliza nodded, keeping her expression carefully neutral. "And now?" Xyloth's nictitating membranes flicked thoughtfully. "Now I see that we were mistaken. Your Engineer Liu's actions today prove that humanity has great potential, even if your technology differs from our own. You have a resourcefulness, a creativity, that we perhaps lack. It's amazing what a little desperate ingenuity can achieve," Eliza said, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. "Indeed," Xyloth agreed. "I fear we have grown complacent in our superiority. We have much to learn from humanity, as well as much to offer in return." He extended a hand, a gesture Eliza recognized as a human custom. "I look forward to a new era of cooperation between our species." As Eliza shook Xyloth's hand, she could sense the shift in the air. The Zephyx's words rippled through the alien delegates, a new understanding dawning. Humanity had proven themselves today, had earned a measure of respect. But even as the seeds of friendship were sown, Eliza could feel the lingering traces of prejudice. Not all the aliens were as ready as Xyloth to accept humanity as equals. There was still a long road ahead. Still, it was a start. A small victory, but a significant one. Elisa caught Shen's eye across the room and saw her own determination mirrored there. They would keep pushing, keep proving humanity's worth, one brilliant solution at a time. The Wargame Simulation. The Galactic Union had a tradition. Newly inducted species were invited to participate in a series of simulated wargames, ostensibly to foster cooperation and understanding between the various races. But Elisa suspected it was also a way for the established powers to size up potential rivals. She assembled her team in the station's massive holodeck, a cavernous room that could simulate any environment or scenario. Marcus Johnson, their tactical expert, stood at the center of a floating grid, directing the placement of virtual units. "Remember," he said, "the Zephyx rely heavily on their superior technology. They'll likely try to overwhelm us with sheer firepower, but we can counter that with mobility and unpredictability." Adi Patel nodded, her eyes scanning the readouts from their AI assistants. "Our quantum models suggest that a dispersed formation, coupled with rapid strike and fade attacks, will be most effective." Shen Lu grinned as he made a final adjustment to the software governing their simulated infantry weapons. "And if all else fails, we've got a few technological tricks up our sleeves. These disruptor algorithms should give their targeting computers fits." Eliza watched her team work, pride swelling in her chest. They were the best and brightest Earth had to offer, a shining example of human ingenuity and determination. As the countdown to the war game ticked closer, she could feel the eyes of the alien observers on them. The Zephyx, the Krolath, the Ixiri, all of them eager to see how the upstart humans would fare against their own champions. The virtual battlefield burst into life, a dizzying array of light and sound. The human forces moved like ghosts, striking and fading as the Zephyx commanders struggled to lock onto their signatures. Confusion reigned as the disruptor algorithms took hold, turning the aliens' own weapon systems against them. The human AI assistants worked in perfect tandem with their organic counterparts, predicting enemy movements and adapting strategies on the fly. In the end, it was a rout. The human team stood victorious, the simulated battlefield littered with the wreckage of alien war machines. A stunned silence fell over the observers, broken only by the gentle hum of the holodeck powering down. "Extraordinary," Xyloth murmured, his eyes wide. "Such unorthodox tactics, such seamless integration of organic and artificial intelligence. I have never seen its like." Elisa allowed herself a small smile. "Adaptation is the key to survival," she said. Humanity learned that lesson well. As the alien delegates broke into excited chatter, analyzing the battle and debating the implications, Elisa saw a new light in their eyes when they looked at her team. It was more than respect now. It was a glimmer of something like awe, a realization that humanity was not just a rising power, but a force to be reckoned with. They had come far, her little band of brilliant misfits. But their greatest challenge was yet to come. The turning point. The alert came in the middle of the night cycle, jolting Elisa from a dreamless sleep. Bleary-eyed, she fumbled for her communicator, adrenaline surging as she registered the priority code flashing on the screen. "Ambassador," Xyloth's voice crackled over the link, unusually tense. "We have a situation. Please report to the council chambers immediately." Within minutes, Elisa and her team were gathered around the central holoprojector, joined by the leaders of a dozen other species. Xyloth stood at the head of the table, his normally composed features etched with worry. "Approximately 1 standard hour ago," he began, "a Zephyx research facility was raided by a rogue faction. They stole a prototype zero-point resonance generator, along with several key components for advanced nanofabrication." A chorus of gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. Elisa exchanged a grim look with her team. They all knew the implications. In the wrong hands, that technology could destabilize the entire quadrant. "Our security forces attempted to track the thieves," Xyloth continued, but they're using some kind of advanced stealth tech. Our scans can't lock onto their ship. What about the station's quantum sensor array? AD asked. Surely that could pierce their cloak. Zyloff shook his head. We tried. They must be using a randomized phase tachyon field. It scatters the quantum waves. Shen frowned thoughtfully. A phase tachyon field would require immense power, he mused. They'd need to cycle their shields to vent the excess heat. Marcus snapped his fingers. That's it. We can track them by their thermal signature. The alien leaders looked dubious, but Eliza nodded firmly. Do it. Within minutes, they had a fix on the rogue ship. But even as the Galactic Union forces closed in, the thieves unveiled their true plan. They're activating the zero-point resonance generator, Zyloff cried. If they overload it near a populated system, the resulting quantum shockwave would devastate everything in its path. AD finished grimly. Despair settled over the council like a shroud. Their most advanced weapons were useless against such a threat. But as Eliza stared at the holographic display, a desperate idea took shape. The nanites, she said. The ones they stole. Could we use them to deliver a targeted pulse? Something to short out the generator before it overloads. Shen's eyes widened. A quantum virus? Yes, it could work. But we'd need to get it past their firewalls. Leave that to us, Marcus said, already typing furiously on his console. We've been developing some new intrusion algorithms based on human hacking techniques. It was a tense few hours as the human and alien engineers worked feverishly, coding and recoding, testing and retesting. But finally, they had it. A sleek little package of digital mayhem, ready to wreak havoc on the rogue ship's systems. As the Union forces held their breath, Eliza gave the order. The virus streaked through space, slipping past firewalls and burrowing deep into the enemy's computers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a burst of electromagnetic static, the rogue ship's shields flickered and died. Its engines sputtered out, escape pods jettisoning in all directions. On the display, the ominous red glow of the overloading generator faded to a harmless green. A cheer went up from the assembled leaders, human and alien alike. In the aftermath, as the thieves were rounded up and the stolen tech secured, Eliza found herself once again the center of attention. But this time, the looks the aliens gave her and her team were different. Gone was the condescension, the barely veiled skepticism. In its place was something else, genuine admiration, and a newfound understanding. They had seen, firsthand, what humanity was capable of, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of spirit, of sheer stubborn refusal to give up. Zyloff approached Eliza, his sensory cilia waving in a gesture of deep respect. Ambassador, he said, on behalf of the Galactic Union, I want to express our gratitude. Your team's actions today saved countless lives.